Hi everyone, welcome back to the studio for this week's episode of Tutorial Tuesday. Today I thought we would do a nice misty scene using just a handful of colors, which you should see in the description below. Be sure to check that if you'd like to follow along. I've already prepped my 18 by 24 inch canvas with a thin, even coat of liquid white, and it's ready to go. Let's jump right into it. To start off with our sky, I thought we would just use a smaller brush here. Let's make sure that it's clean, and we're going to go into some yellow ochre. We're kind of going to do a misty sunset scene where we have some light popping through at the base of the horizon and maybe some pretty birch trees near the end. I just used a little bit of water to tighten up the canvas to make it a little easier to work with here, and it does the trick right away. I want to use some of this gold yellow ochre and reflect some of it down into our water that we're going to have later. So let's just try and get a small little idea of this reflected light. Maybe we'll work it up into a little bit of a feature back here. We'll see, who knows. Soften that out. I'm gonna go a little bit more yellow ochre and then pick up some Alizarin Crimson. Just kind of allow those two to meet on the brush. We're going for a light, almost peachy color, but not quite. Nice and light. I'm barely touching the canvas. I do have a good amount of paint, not a ton of paint, but some paint on the brush, and I just want to allow a tiny bit of that to come off. I wanted to go for a really soft looking scene today. So we're just going to create a border around this yellow with the crimson, kind of a safe zone. And we'll do the same down into our water, a little differently though. I'm just pulling in nice and flat. I wanted it to be a really soft, maybe almost a pastel painting, but not quite. I do enjoy painting with pretty bright colors, so we'll see what the final piece ends up being when we get to blending all of this. And I'm just going to use this brush. Now it's kind of less of the pink, and just lightly in the middle here. We'll just kind of soften it out. Maybe something like that. Now let's pick up a little bit more crimson. Just more straight crimson now. Less yellow ochre. We're not getting any more of that on the brush. We're just working with what is left on the brush. And we're going to just put in a nice, kind of a thin line here, maybe a tiny bit below. Something like that. This this is just our water reflections down below. All right, I'm going to just wipe off this brush now. I was in the studio yesterday for the first time in about a week and my computer crashed. So day of, it's actually Tutorial Tuesday and I'm in the studio. It's morning, it's been snowing, it's a wonderful spring day. So I just am enjoying getting back into the studio. I'm really glad you all are here with me. Now it's whatever time that you're watching this video. I hope you're having a good time. Let me know in the comments below where you are, what time it is, what you're doing. It's just kind of fun to be interacting with so many different time zones and, you know, areas of people. So I like knowing where you are. Let me know. I am just working with a nice light gray color first. I mixed in some titanium white with our gray mix, which is almost equal parts of Alizarin Crimson and Phthalo Green. But I like to have a little bit more Phthalo Green than Alizarin Crimson, but that's just my personal preference. You can do it however you like. Just using a touch more dark now on the corners. And this is just going to continue to mix with our liquid white when we get our big brush and start blending this. So we'll just apply a good bit of that there. And we'll start with our gray just from the outside in. I knew I still had a little bit of liquid white on here, so I started a little higher so that I can get some of this lighter paint to blend in here. And we'll just grab some of our dark gray and get that applied into our corners. Working in flat lines, pulling that paint from the outside in. Just evening it out here, making sure we don't have too much paint built up in any one spot. All right. Let's pick up a blending brush now. And we're going to start in the lightest area and just soften this. The tighter that you make your X stroke, the more that it's going to soften it and disperse some of these horizontal lines. If you don't want them, that's okay. Just scrub them out. Just like that, you have a nice blended sky. I'm starting to get close to that gray section, but I want to be very careful. Once we go up in there, we can't really come back very easily. So just work in stages. Got a hair, get that out of there. Just soften it on this lower section to get it where you want it. And then we'll move up and continue to blend as we move up. Make it nice and gray, misty. I'm going to get a little bit of paint that's built up on my brush. Just wipe some of that out. It's good to keep a good habit of just getting some of that extra paint out here and there. And we'll just soften this all the way across now. And we'll soften our waters as well. All the way across now. Just bring it all together. Now I've got the basics of our sky. I want to just kind of work in a little bit more movement. So we're just going to get a little bit of gray and we'll just dance in some movement up high. Kind of just some rolling clouds or part of our mistiness that's happening in the sky. Maybe a little down here. Just take your blending brush and you just soften these. Just getting rid of the excess paint and softening and swirling this paint around. Nice soft pastel sky. Maybe that's what we'll call this, under pastel skies. I've had a few people ask in comments recently, you know, the different techniques for blending and softening these paints. So I thought maybe we would kind of incorporate that into this painting maybe. We'll just give these kind of misty little clouds just a little bit of a lift here, and then you just kind of very lightly get out the brush strokes and bring that all together. I'm testing out a couple new light settings, microphone settings, and just overall like recording settings. So I've been having a few hiccups in some recent videos. So anyway, testing a couple things out to see if I can kind of improve a few things, but today the lighting is a little different, but anyway, no big deal. What do you say we put in a few little highlights pick up your fan brush and go right into the yellow ochre, titanium white and yellow ochre. Get a little bit of that on the brush. Nice and thick paint here. And we're going to pick out where our sun is going to be, maybe right here. And we're just going to dance in some fun little clouds or misty movements, just to really sell that kind of misty feeling of that original idea. Now we're going to do the same stage of colors, get a little bit of our kind of yellow ochre and crimson peachy color. And titanium white. And then let's try that again. We're going to pick up a little bit of mud as we move out, but I just wanted to kind of dance in a few ideas of our light, kind of playing around over here. It's just dancing along the edges. Maybe a little bit right over here. Now, let's pick up some of our gray mixture. Just keep using that same dirty brush. Go into the gray mixture. And we'll just pop in a little bit more titanium white. A few little pops of light, maybe this fun blue-gray, just misty sky. You just want to add a little bit more to it. Just a little bit. Let's leave it like that. Pick up a clean blending brush or clean out your blending brush. I'm just going to wipe mine out and see if I can get lucky here. Start in the middle. Let's pick out an area here and we're just going to soften it, swirling, giving it that misty, just light is popping through in all these different areas, bouncing off some moisture in the air, giving us all kinds of fun pops of color and mystery. Just kind of let it go and have fun with it. You do have to be cautious of some of these golds when we get up into the sky, but if we have more of the gray than we do of the yellow, they should balance out to be pretty okay. You can see there I'm starting to pick up a little bit too much. You just soften it, clean out the brush a little bit, and continue on. I'm going to turn down this light. Now let's continue to soften a few. I'm really liking this. Super fun scene. I don't want there to be a ton of strict details when it comes to the clouds and the sky. I really want this to feel super misty, like the light is just kind of popping through all these fun little areas. Just putting on a show, you know? Let's do that. Getting some hairs. Where are they coming from? I don't know. Okay, soften that. And now I really want to just make sure that we can have a nice bright spot here. So I'm just picking out a sun, put that in there, and then just push it back. Isn't that nice? You can just barely see it in there. We can take the script liner, get some thick titanium white. We're kind of going to go for like a little bit of a peachy color, not just straight white, even though we are blending it with some of these clouds. Get a little bit, just medium, maybe medium thickness will help so that we can get some of this paint to come off. And just right around the edges, I want to pick out a few, getting darker as it moves further away. I want to just accentuate a few of these really close clouds. And you can just push the brush and kind of wiggle it around, and it'll just take off as much as it wants to. And that will be all. I'm just going to pick up a sable brush and just soften that back a little bit. Just the smallest little details up here sometimes can really make some big changes. So we'll see in the photo, when I take a photo at the end, we'll see some of these features really shine. Fun stuff. Okay. Now, we have a little bit of our light source. I'm just going to just barely, I'm whispering with like 2 hairs barely touching. There we go. And just make sure everything else is ready to go. And we're going to jump into the next stage here. I'm going to work with my gray mixture and tap into the brush. I'm using my 1-inch brush, the dirty brush from earlier. I want this to be a light gray mixture, and we're going to kind of just tint it a little bit to the peach side, a little bit more crimson, just a hair more of that than our phthalo green. And when we mix it over here, we've got some of our yellow ochre, just a hair of that in there, just adding harmony with everything that we're doing. And now we're just going to pop in a few ideas back here of some trees that are popping out through the mist. Just a couple up here. Now let's grab some crimson, a little bit more crimson. Just a touch, a little bit more crimson, some titanium white. Just lighten it up a touch. Let's soften that. Oh, you know, first, I lied. First off, we're going to put just put in a few tree lines. We probably won't see very much because it's going to be right. We're just going to use thin down paint with the script liner and just wiggle out a couple tree branches out here. Way out in the distance. So we're not going to see a whole bunch, but they still need to be there. A little bit more paint. Thin that down until it runs. All right, now we soften. Just tapping out the base. See how easy we can get a fun little misty line here just by using our gray and tapping? Super fun. And you can just move this right over here. Something like that. Now, if we want to get extra fun, we can use a sable brush and just a touch of titanium white and yellow ochre, the tiniest little bit, and just tap a couple little highlights, maybe a little bit more yellow, just a tiny bit right in here, and it'll show up later much more. Just tap that out. Now let's move in and do a couple more layers here. We'll get them just a tiny bit darker by using just our gray mixture and Alizarin Crimson. Less titanium white now. It helps to just drag out a little bit of paint and then tap your brush into that so you're not getting too much paint distributed in one area of the bristles. We really want to work it into all of them. So tap that out. Really, really tap. And let's move and do another layer here. And just work kind of, you know, tree by tree, bush by bush. And we'll maybe do something like that. Just keep working with those paints and flavoring them just slightly different each time. Maybe we've got one popping up over. Touch more crimson, maybe just a tiny bit of titanium white, just a little bit lighter right over here. Just a touch. Maybe. Darker now as we're getting out a little further away from our light source. Maybe we'll just pop in the top of a tree over here. Get our script liner now, thin out your paint, and use this same paint that we were kind of using before, a little darker now. Thin it so it runs, and twirl it into a fine point. And we'll just take this and put in a few tree branches again. Maybe some ones down low. I like to give them a little wiggle. Just kind of flick your finger and you can just shake them right out. And they look pretty realistic this way, I think. Give it a try. Happy Tutorial Tuesday, everybody. Thank you for being here. If you are still watching, please give me a thumbs up in the comments below and let me know what your favorite part about this video has been so far, or wait till the end and let me know what your favorite part total of the video ends up being. I love hearing what you have to say about my paintings, and if there's something that you want to give a try, I hope you do. Always send me an email with your painting, Kaylee@KayleeRakowski.com. I would love to see what you're working on and what inspires you as an artist, or maybe just in general for life, what you like to do or what makes you happy. I'd love to hear what you all have to say. Now, get back to the painting. We're just going to tap out the base just like we did. You could do so many layers like this, but I do still have a little bit of work left here. We have some feature birch trees that I'd like to add into here, so we're just going to get this nice and misty and maybe do one more layer and then do our birch trees. Just softening this all back. Now that's working really well. Let's go right into some titanium white with this big brush and pick out a few highlights in areas with some light mist we want to just accentuate a little bit more. Just move that around. Nice, so soft. Now, we are going to have reflections down here, so let's just pull that straight across and just kind of pick an area where it's going to kind of disappear into the water, and we will kind of give us a little bit of these colors down below. Let's just tap in a few ideas, something maybe like this, and on this side a little darker. Now let's pull these down. And we can just soften this well, let's finish this side first. I'm getting ahead of myself. Just wanted to get a nice dark watercolor, maybe a little bit more dark on this side. I really want this to feel nice and like really deep and dark over here. Deep water. We're getting further and further away from that pastel scene that I was talking about. But I'm really kind of excited to have some bright, you know, spring colors and summer flowers and blossoms and just, yeah, get out of the gray dreariness of winter. So doing a gray misty scene was, this is what it turned into. Okay, let's use some titanium white now. Get a good bit of that on the brush. I want to just create kind of like a flat horizon sort of over here where the fog is just bouncing off of the water. So we're just going to pick a spot with the titanium white and start, and we're going to tap nice and flat titanium white down here all the way across, and we're going to move it up, not too much. There we go. Now just wipe off the brush. Tap into some of the gray mistiness that we were using, and we just want to kind of bring these together, just sort of match, get rid of that straight line that we created on the top. You're really just after getting a line and picking like a horizon-ish center area, and then we're going to just soften it down. Very good. Now let's tap the base and soften this into the water. Soften the mist. Soften the mist. Now what we're looking for is to get this gray line to be in the same spot kind of all the way across. So we'll just bring up a little bit where it's right about here. Straight across. Now we'll just soften, bring it all together, maybe there we go. Now we kind of lost some of our water, some of our sun and stuff down into the water. So let's just take some titanium white and yellow ochre and just pick out some nice areas for our sun to be kind of shining. We'll just kind of work in some horizontal lines, moving around and out. Get some crimson again. Right, and just incorporate all the colors that we were using before. This is nice and thick paint, so it should stick, but it doesn't always. There we go. More crimson. Let's get a little bit of lighter color. Maybe we'll bounce some kind of peachy color off of this back. A little bit brighter with some yellow, titanium white. Okay, let's do a touch of gray. Just want to get some of our light gray mixture and kind of work in a few more bits of light, kind of bouncing around some shadows. Now I'm just rocking the brush, kind of going through a few of these sections and just pulling them out, giving that natural water kind of rocking motion. It's not perfectly flat. Not today, there's just a little bit of movement. Here we go. And we can do some more with the water in just a few. Let's soften these background areas a little. Just going to pull that in from the outside, just like that. Love it. The last bit here. So we're going to take our dark mixtures, Alizarin Crimson and our gray mix. Just get some of that on the brush. And I'm going to tap out an area, like a little island out here. Something like this, maybe it's got grass. We could just lift that right up. Maybe another row. And lift that up. Now, let's take our fan brush, pick up a little bit of yellow ochre and some brush wash, just thin that down a smidge. And pick up a tiny bit of Alizarin Crimson. I just don't want it too bright. And we're going to pop in some grass. Just push up with the brush, and then we're going to lift. A little bit more yellow ochre this time. Maybe a touch of phthalo green. Just a little hint. Just a hint. Let's get these shining in the light. There. Something like that. Now we can take our dark, again, just a touch more of that, and we just darken this and add in another layer. Pull that up. Now we want to pull down some reflections. Use a script liner to pull out a few little, kind of in the background, just some contrast strands, a little longer. here and there and there and here. Let's get a little bit of our yellow. Just lighten that up a little bit. Nothing too crazy. Okay, now we have a nice little area, kind of a starting point. I think we need to maybe move this just to make him a touch wider over here. Just like that. Just a little wider. Now, we're going to put in some birch trees. Now, we've been using our gray mixture basically this whole time. So what we're going to do is just continue on with that. Pick up some of your gray, and we're going to pick out our birch trees. Now, I'm going to have one right here in the middle. Let's put in the reflection somewhere down this way. Okay. Maybe there's one right beside it. Maybe there's a littler one right over here. And there. And let's see, maybe two more? Maybe there's a little one out here. And just kind of a hanger right over here. Gotta give them some character. There we go. All right, now I like to use my knife to paint trees, so let's do it up. Get our dark mixture, pile it up all into one, and we're just going to fill these in. Now that we have our idea, we just want to make sure that they're nice and dark, and we go on both sides if you have to, and just apply the dark. It doesn't have to be super thick. We are going to be applying paint on top of this, so we don't want it to be impossible to layer, but we have to have this dark in order for our highlights to show later. So we put this dark on first, and then we'll highlight it and give them some more character. Let's not forget our reflections. And then we can always come in and put some grasses in front of these to fix the bottoms, or, you know, adjust them if you didn't do what you wanted, and you just cover them up. No big deal. I'm just using small amounts of paint and applying it until I'm all out. Trying to get this very nice straight, well, not straight, but dark line here on the edge because the sun is behind, so we really want these to be silhouetted, and they need to be nice and dark to have that effect. I like to just practice when I'm putting on this paint, even though it doesn't have as much effect as when you're putting on your highlights, but practice wrapping that paint around the trunk. Wrap it and round the trunk out. And if you practice it while you're applying this first layer, you can see what improvements you may need to make before you even apply the highlight where it really matters, in the shadows, when you're really getting the shape of it down. So you can just practice it while you're applying the base layer and get that little semicircle there to get the shape of your tree to kind of pop off the canvas. And they don't have to be exactly the same. You know, your tree's going to be moving all around, so try and look at your tree and decide what it needs. I think this one needs to be just a tiny bit bigger around at the bottom. There we go. And I forgot to get this one here. No big deal. Gotta round these the other way. Tricky. Okay, back up here. Let's finish this one. Flatten that paint back out if it's got all the lines in it, and just keep working. You can do as many or as few of these birch trees as you want, but it's really good practice to do more than one. And you know, why stop at 2 or 5 or 7 or 15? I don't know. I like odd numbers though. It usually helps when painting trees. 2 is good, but 3 is better. So just keep that in mind, but there really aren't any specific rules, and any of the rules that there may be, you can pretty much break them if you want to, because you're the boss. Nobody can tell you what you can do or not. You get to make all of your own choices. And especially in painting, if these colors aren't the colors that you want, choose different colors. If you want it to be brighter or less bright, that's up to you. And I hope that you do try and do something different and send me a picture. Kaylee at KayleeRakowski.com. I love to see that. Send it my way. I'm just mixing up a little bit more paint because I kind of ran out. It's just my Alizarin Crimson and my gray mixture. We're just warming up the gray mixture with more crimson because this scene is turned into a nice warm sunset misty scene. I guess this could be a morning. I don't know. The sun is low in the horizon, but is this a morning or an evening? You tell me. What do you think? Votes? I might know when we're all done, but I'm too focused on these trees right now to think about it. Ooh, look at us. We're making good time here. We're almost done with our base color for some birch trees. We're gonna have some beautiful green and gold leaves on here. They're all green, but the sun is just gonna be popping on some, giving us a little bit of a gold feeling. I'm really excited to just kind of speckle in some of these fun birch leaves that end up being, they're really small, and it's fun to paint with a fan brush. You just have to be careful not to do too many and get ahead of yourself. But we're gonna dance in a few leaves here once we get some branches out on these. And then we'll just play around with our highlights and shadows to finish our trees. Maybe we'll just throw that guy right out there. And let's not forget, I like to take my big brush and just pull up from the bottom, wipe that off because we are going to pick up paint. Wipe it off after each time. We just want to soften it just a touch. We can go across from the outside in, just kind of give them a little tickle, and we'll work more on those as we get further along. Let's do some branches now. We're going to need a very thin paint, so use your brush wash, and let's start with a dark mixture, the same color we were using to paint the base of our trees, and we're going to paint in some background tree branches. Let's just pick out, kind of finish off some of these tops. Maybe throw in some branches. Let them just go wild. And we do want to start picking up some of the paint as we're going and allowing them to get lighter as we are moving away. Just use the colors, the grays and peach, or sorry, gray and crimson together, and dance in wherever you think we need some branches. And then we can go back in and reestablish the trees, who's in front and who's behind. But this is just a really great way to get in some of those background trees. You know, the branches that are going out that way, they're going to be behind our leaves. So we need to kind of get this idea in. These ones are just going to go right off the canvas. Maybe they've got a few branches up here. Be sure to make some go in front and then also behind. We'll pull them and play with them and get them to really just be kind of wild. We just pull this tree right in front of those bristles, branches that we just put in. See that? Now this tree is in front of those branches. This one too. And that one's in front. And then we'll still put in some more at the very, very end. We just want to get in our ideas. Make sure that your paint is very thin. If it doesn't stick, thin it more. And this brush holds a lot of paint, so you just wiggle it into the paint and then twirl it into a fine point. And that is what we want to use. Nice and dark. Twirl that into a fine point. Maybe we'll have a couple lower branches, maybe on this guy here, and they just kind of go out this way. You can just pull this tree back in front. Super easy. This one too. There we go. Wiggle out some branches. All right, let's work just a tiny bit on some of our grasses down below. I want to get a tiny bit of liquid white and yellow ochre. I want this to be thin. Grab a touch of bright red. And we'll just pull up a couple out here, nice and bright, brighter than before. Just a few, maybe right out here. There we go. And then we'll take a little bit more yellow ochre and some of our phthalo green. Just working with some of our fun, bright colors here. And just dance in a little bit of a line. And we'll leave that there. Just want to establish some layers back here. Nice. Now, let's do some highlights. And we have to keep in mind where our sun is, and that's about it. So we'll mix up a little bit of gray. I have some still here. This is just our gray mixture with some titanium white in it. And we want to marble that together. And we'll grab just a touch of our dark mixture, whatever we have left, and just marble that in. Cut off a little roll of paint. This is our shadow color here. Since it's a little bit gray blue, we've got our phthalo green in there. And we're going to shadow, just drag the paint across the back side of the tree. This should be a nice thick paint. And we want to drag it in that semicircle and allow it to just pull right off. All the way up the back. Just touch and pull. And allow the paint to grab onto the other paint that's already on the canvas. All the way up. I do have a pretty hard time staying out of the way of the camera just because the angle for getting the paint to stick is a little bit challenging, so I'm sorry if it's a little bit out of focus here for you. Let's just mix up a touch more of our marbled gray mixture. We are moving a little bit closer to our light source, but I didn't want this to be that bright. Let's darken that down just a smidge. There we go. It's very important that you practice this. I mean, if you want to get good at doing mountains or anything, water, rocks, you can use the knife to really get some fun effects, and they're really textured. So they kind of are raised and they look really cool when they're dry. So it's pretty fun, and I definitely think even if it's hard, give it a try and practice this technique, and over time you'll find that it's really fun and is a little bit more enjoyable. All right, now we're on the other side. The sun is over here, so we're going to put our shadows kind of on this opposite side. So this is a fun way to practice both highlighting and shadowing on both sides as opposed to just everything on one side with this central light source. Very fun, a little challenging, but really fun. Let's get this side. Touch and let the paint meet the other paint. They go, hey, what's up? And they just swipe on by. There we go. All the way up. All the way up. Okay, now we're gonna add a little bit to that. Same mixture over here. It's a little bit lighter now. And I want to pick out a few spots closer to the water where it's going to be just nice and shiny. Maybe here. And we're just going to pop on a little bit extra. See that? Now we need a little bit of this down below. So we're just going to kind of smoosh it in. We don't want to apply too much paint down here, but we do want to get the same effects, and we want it to match. There we go. Something like that. I think I want a few more bits of bright over here. I just feel like it would be a little bit of shiny. Maybe. Okay, we need to pop on some highlights. So we're going to pick out titanium white, yellow ochre, yellow ochre. And we'll just pick up a touch of our dark, just a little, tiny little bit. Cut off a roll of that. Let's see what we have. This might be, let's do this. Let's add some of our peach. Fun. I like that. Okay, now we're going to use this as our highlight. I'm going to start where we're closest and start moving away. Think about where your light is and make sure that you put your highlights on the right side. Correct side, not necessarily the right always, but you know what I meant. I hope. I don't want all of these to get highlights all the way up because there's going to be some that are, you know, covered by leaves, but on these bottom where it's nice and exposed, get a good bit all the way across, something like that. Tiny bit up here. Maybe this one's kind of behind this other tree, but he still needs just a touch. Maybe up here. Maybe this one right here and here. We just tap on a little bit of that paint and pull it across right there. Cut off your little roll and just keep working step by step. This is kind of, yeah, this is a slow part. You know, a slow part of the painting. It takes some time, but take your time. It's important to focus on, you know, the valuable parts of the painting. This background is all soft, it's kind of misty. So that part, you know, you can just have some fun with it and get really loose and just vary it up. And you can blaze through that and get real quick if you want to. And then save your energy for this part. But this part, you don't want to rush. Not too much. It's important. All right, now let's match our highlights just a touch with our lowers. Pick out a few where we were highlighting before. Let's put in a few more tree branches, kind of some of these bouncing off in front. I want a lighter color, a light gray. So you can mix in some liquid white and our brush wash and just go right into our gray mixture. We don't want straight white, we want gray. Nice gray. And we're just going to pop in some more tree branches, pull some in front where they need to be. Now we've got some in front, some behind. Maybe a little brighter now. Now, let's see what we can do for some leaves. I'm excited and also don't want to mess this up. And it looks like I had my sun kind of in the wrong spot. So now that I'm just seeing that real quick, let's put it in the right spot, right between these trees. Just pop it in. And then we can even use some of that. There we go. We'll just leave that for a few minutes. Now, fan brush. Let's go for a little bit of a dirty green, phthalo green and yellow ochre. Yeah, it's nice. Let's grab just a touch of Alizarin Crimson. I just want to dull it just a bit. Get some titanium white. That looks like a good color. Let's start with this, and we're going to just dance on a few leaves here and there. I'm going to open up the bristles just by tapping it out. We're just throwing on some kind of like background noise. Some leaves back here. A little bit more yellow now. Just open up the bristles again, and we'll tap in some of our backgrounds, bristles, some over here. They're getting some light on them. I'm gonna get a little bit of liquid white, thin this down just a touch. And we're going for a nice pop of color. A little bit more yellow ochre. Now let's do a little bit more, get a little crimson, and I'm going to thin down this paint. It just makes it a little bit easier to kind of disperse the paint. And I want it to be very light. I don't want to get too crazy. So now it's a little bit more to the green side. I'm liking that. Just open up the bristles once more. And now we're a little bit darker, so we're moving forward. These bristles are kind of coming in front, maybe they're coming down. Tap, open up those bristles. Really, really open them up. Let's get a little bit more crimson. A little bit more phthalo green, titanium white. Let's get this nice and fun green, thin down. really thin it. It's just going to make it a little easier. A little more crimson there. A little yellow ochre. Open up dark over here. We're further away from our light source. It's getting darker. Get some of those, just a few of these colors down below. Now I'm going to get some fresh yellow ochre because I ran out. Nice and fresh. Clean off the brush, the fan brush that you were using. I'm just going through my brush wash. I'm going to pick up some liquid white and I'm going straight into the yellow ochre this time. Nice gold. Bright gold. Open up the bristles and we're gonna pop in some of this gold. A little bit of bright red. There we go. And we just want to pop in a few areas of this bright gold where our sun might be hitting. Maybe we've got some over here. Maybe okay, now let's do one more. I'm thinking we want just maybe a little bit more green. Let's go real green. Let's see what happens. Bravery test. Wow. Okay, this is scary. I don't know. Just a few of those. Okay. That might be overdoing it. Now, let's put that down for a second. More. Maybe we lost some, but we want to pick out a few more branches. Get them nice and light this time. Almost white, but not. Just brighter. And we'll pop in a few. Extras just here and there. Those aren't really showing. So, new plan. Clean and thin. Was not thin enough. There we go. Okay, now we need to finish up the base down here. I'm just going to get some thin down paint and pull up a few grasses around the base. Just kind of throw them over the front a little bit. And then we'll pick up our fan brush. We've already mixed up this kind of green mixture, but we don't really want that. So let's kind of muddy it down with our yellow ochre and Alizarin Crimson. Really warm it up. And we'll try this out and just throw in a little bit of background grass, maybe a little darker even, Alizarin Crimson, touch of bright red. Nice dark. And we need a little bit of a shoreline. I'm just going to mix up some Alizarin Crimson and Phthalo Green. And cut off a little roll of that and just plop it in. Nice and dark, but you can still scrub it around a little bit to kind of blend it so it's not too strong. We just kind of push it down into the canvas, almost like we're scrubbing it in at the base. Wipe that off, and we'll use our big brush. Pull down this dark. Now we have some good dark right at the base. We can pull this up. Wipe it off if you need to. Let's go all the way across now. Okay, that wasn't too bad. Let's use a palette knife and some of our sunshine color. Just get that back in there. Titanium white and our yellow ochre. Just gray that down a little bit. And drag some of this out. Right. Now what we need is some grasses. Let's get some thinned paint, thin yellow and liquid white. And we're gonna throw in some little grasses back here, just a tiny bit there. And we can use our fan brush now. Give it a little bit of a wipe. It's got a lot of dark paint in it. And we want to go for some highlights, so we need to thin it down with a brush wash. And we'll go right into our yellow. Let's get a touch of bright red. And we're going to throw in our grass right where it's nice and highlight. And then we're going to move into our shadows here. I'm going to pick up just a touch more of the Alizarin Crimson. That's not Alizarin Crimson. I thought it was. Here it is. Alizarin Crimson and yellow ochre. And we're going to use these colors together to pop in some fun colors right out here. These are kind of in the shadows, but they'll still be bouncing around some fun light. You can just push up the brush into that and you'll get some fun little grasses to pop right off. Now I'm going to go into some liquid white and we're going to just get some of our fun bright yellow mixture and we can just tap on some sparkles. Use our script liner, go into some dark, and pull out some grasses. As long as the paint on your script liner is thin, you'll be able to get this to flow, and it'll just lift up some of the paint into some grasses for you. Nice and simple like. Maybe we'll get just a touch of bright red and this yellow, and we'll throw in some little bits of detail, some variety of grasses back there. I think that'll be enough. What do you think? I think that's good. Just get a tiny bit of thinned paint and connect any of these that need. Throw in a few. Now, we need a water line, and we need it to be kind of gray and in the shadows. So let's just go right over here to this mixture we have. And I'm going to grab a little bit more of our gray mixture and dull that out. We're looking for a medium texture off-white color, and we're just going to use this to scrub in some water at the base of this little island out here. Make sure it's flat. And we'll push in a few more back there. Now, let's work just a touch on this little water area here. I want to add a few, some of our peach color, and it'll just bounce through here. Flat water lines. Let's get some more white and some liquid white. Get it nice and shiny here. Oh, a crooked there. There we go. And just get rid of it. No big deal. Flat. Yeah, that's a fun little misty scene that we've got going on here. I'm going to sign it, and I'm going to go get to editing this video, and then we're going to watch it all together. Bright red. I think I'll just pop it right over in this corner over here. All right. That about wraps it up for me here today. All I have left to do is to clean up the studio. Thank you all so much for being here with me. My name's Kaylee. I paint wet on wet landscape oil paintings, and you all just watched episode 43 of Tutorial Tuesday. Smile and be happy, friends.